Join us in a hard target search of every gas station, residence, warehouse, farmhouse, henhouse, outhouse, and doghouse as we hunt Harrison Ford in The Fugitive. Stay with us. Welcome, friends, to the 3324 podcast. Music, movies, guests, Eric. What more can we ask for? What more do you want out of this podcast?
I don't think anything. It's been great.
There we go. Right? We've got
a bunch of people we always have with us.
Yeah, we've got a great
on the movie side.
pack.
Yeah.
A great mix, and that's always fun too. Is kind of putting all the names into a hat and shuffling them around, and then Roland puts that hat on, and we never get to pick anything. So he just grabs the hat and puts it on because he always wants to be wearing a hat.
Listen, actually, I'm the one getting paper cuts. No one else. Okay.
Actually, for some odd reason, three of us are wearing baseball caps.
Yes,
it's not an assignment.
Yeah.
So, welcome aboard to the 3324 podcast. Find us on YouTube. If you are watching us on YouTube, there's a like button somewhere around there, and then there's a subscribe button somewhere around there. And take your finger, and if you're on your phone, and kind of dot it, or if you're watching on your computer, go ahead and hover your mouse over it. And please like and subscribe. It helps us.
Mm-hmm.
Why not help those who need help?
Helps us grow.
Yeah.
Right?
Help me help you.
Sure.
Help me help you.
We don't want the Quan. We want the subscription.
So we're gonna do Jerry Maguire now. Segue.
Yeah.
Segue.
Let's do it.
Special. We're gonna do. We're not doing The Fugitive. We're gonna do Jerry Maguire on the. We should do that like a Flash episode.
Hoodwinked.
Change it.
Right.
We just like kind of change it, or we spin a wheel and whatever movie comes up.
Why not?
I do that.
We got to do.
Fun.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
Why not?
For tonight though, we're staying on the straight and narrow. We're gonna do The Fugitive. So let's start off with our first guest, Mr. Roland Arucci. Hasn't seen him in these parts recently, and I'm glad to have him back on the show.
Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
He is the host, the founder of the feast, as it were, of the Ready Speaker podcast. You can find that on YouTube, and we'll make it easier for you too, because we'll drop a link in the show notes. So you can just click on that and go check out Roland. Very, very prolific. A couple of episodes per week. So he's out there grinding as well. So welcome back, Roland. Good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Since we're going with the whole cap, let's go with Mr. Jerry Sullivan. How are you, Jerry?
Hello. I'm well. And you guys?
Doing good. Last seen on our Platoon episode, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes,
no, you did one after
I did The Departed.
Oh, The Departed.
You did The Departed?
That was after. Okay.
I thought I cut you out.
Apparently, I was not that not that
impactful.
So.
Yeah, I was like, you
That's
were
cool.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
And of course, Ms. Christy Cuomo, welcome back from the Departed episode as well. I know that because Jack Nicholson was in the film, and Christy would not let an episode go by that he was in without.
That is true, and I would like
busting
to
her way through the crowd.
Wish him a very belated birthday, April 22nd.
Yeah,
Jack Nicholson.
Yeah,
yes.
He's
85.
He's up there.
85, I think he turned. Yeah,
85.
Yeah, people gave him shit because he woke up and went on his terrace. So
then he went to the Laker game.
And then he went to the.
Yeah, there's footage of him going.
Yeah, then he had to go to the Laker game and put on clothes and be like, "Look, I'm fine."
Yeah.
Wow.
Jesus. And he
this
gained a few pounds.
Well,
yeah,
he's 85. He's allowed to.
He's 85. He can do what he wants.
Loaded.
Yeah.
Retire. He's smart. He's retiring. He's kind of calling it quits. Unlike Mr. Harrison Ford, who is in his 80s and continues to act and continues, and he's taking on the Indiana Jones role once again. So it's not like he's just doing roles where he's like the president sitting behind a desk. He's like still like being put through his paces, and
running and jumping and falling as he likes.
I'm sure there's a good deal of stuntmen in that, but still, he's Harrison Ford is up for it. So we're going back to 1993 for The Fugitive. This was directed by Andrew Davis, who was better known for a film that came out the year before, Under Siege, with Steven Seagal and Tommy Lee Jones, oddly enough, which was known as, which Die Hard started this cottage industry of pitching films as Die Hard on a, and Under Siege became known as Die Hard on a Submarine. So that whole way of pitching films and having a quick tagline of Die Hard on a or Die Hard in this Under Siege was one of the first benefactors of that. It was Die Hard in a submarine. That's how you just describe it. Steven Seagal's a lowly cook. Yeah, okay. Probably eating more than. Anyway.
Sounds like a Beatles song.
Who then the submarine gets taken over by Tommy Lee Jones, terrorist, and he's got to save the day. The Fugitive had a $44 million budget. That's it. That's pretty paltry. $368 million box office in '93. That's a lot of dinero.
Yeah.
For especially a quote unquote smaller film like this. This is not a huge film by when compared to like a Die Hard, like with set pieces and action things. There's one big action piece, and that only cost $1 million. Believe it or not, Jerry, this was nominated for 7 Oscars.
Well deserved.
Yeah, pretty prestigious to get 7 Oscar nominations,
including Best Picture.
Including Best Picture. Go figure.
Which
they took home 1 Oscar, Mr. Tommy Lee Jones, which I think, in my estimation, because he was nominated 2 years before for his incredible work in JFK, and he should have won that year. That was the year that I don't know if it was Pacino won or no, not Pacino. Pacino was nominated also for Glengarry as a supporting actor, but Tommy Lee Jones should have taken the Oscar for that role, but he won this for his role as Samuel Gerard.
Deputy
Yes.
Samuel.
Deputy.
Yeah.
Deputy
Gerard.
Samuel. I call him Samuel. Sam.
His friends call him Sammy, but I don't want to get into it. I talk to him at Sammy.
So this is one of those films that is always one of my favorites, but I don't watch it too often. And then when I finally watched it again, and Eric and I started talking about it yesterday, and at the end of our episode, we started going into this episode. We got to stop. We got to save it.
Yeah.
Jerry,
well,
Jerry,
I think it was more impressions. I think we were.
Yeah, we started doing
impressions. No.
And we missed them?
So we may not have to do that.
Can you go back to them?
I'm still gonna do them. Of course, I'm gonna do my Frederick Sykes impression. Of course, I handle security for all the top executives.
That sounds more like what's his name from Ferris Bueller.
What is this? A trench coat convention?
You
better tell me you're a cop.
Are you doing what's his name from Ferris Bueller, or are you doing?
He sounds a little bit like that. He sounds like Abe Froman, the Sausage King, a little bit.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Or Mr. or Alan Ruck's.
No, it's Alan Ruck's character
of Ferris Bueller's father. Anyway, Jerry, did you see this way back when in '93?
I can honestly say no, but I don't remember when I saw it. I think I remember seeing it many years later on a video cassette when I worked at a talent agency. Somehow it came across, and that's when I first saw it, and I thought it was amazing. Loved it from the get-go.
Yeah, it's just one of those ones. Christy, what about you?
I don't remember when I saw it. I definitely didn't see it in the theater, but it's anytime it's on, it's one of those. I'll watch it from any point. It's I'm in it to win it. It's on any scene. I love this movie. Yeah. All of its glory and flaws. I love this movie.
What flaw? There are no flaws in this film.
There's
always flaws.
There's
no
flaws.
But that endears it more to you because you can look past it. It just shows the love. Like
no flaws, just applause.
I only dated attractive people. I don't think
in the theater, was this one you caught way back?
I did see it in the theater because I'm an old bastard. And I remember seeing it. It was one of my first date movies with a wife who was attractive. And
whoa! Was? You said was.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, that year it was pretty spot on.
93 was a good year.
She can't hear this. She doesn't watch this podcast. Otherwise, she kick my ass.
I would not recommend her listening to this.
Just edit that out, much like you edited
leave it in. Let's see how it plays out. Let's see how it plays out. Leave it in. It was a great film. I remember I was
opportunities to make it up.
I'll tell you a story later if you want to hear it. It's actually, I have so many, get out of jail cards with her. It's great.
Sounds like a whole other episode.
Yeah, it's a whole other episode.
Jerry's talent agency years, which I was not aware of, and
I didn't know
Roland's,
that either. Why don't you have my headshot?
He totally dropped that one. I saw that. You dropped that mic and walked away.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
we'll
yeah.
get to that.
I was speaking to Leo DiCaprio, and we're like, look at the tape, and I didn't know what they had.
And then Jerry was Italian when he worked at the Italian
No,
agency.
my biggest connection was hanging out with David Blaine before he got big.
Really, that's pretty sad.
It was really entertaining, though. That was the thing.
Dean,
Before he got big and weird,
yeah,
he was one of the funniest people I've ever met.
Dean, maybe you want to edit that out for Jerry's benefit.
That's all I got. There's no bad publicity.
David Blaine said, your services are no longer required, and he disappeared. Here's my best trick of all, Eric. I know I didn't see it in the theater with you, but I guarantee you were there for it. You were in the theater.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
This was one of those.
It's Harrison Ford, man. I mean, I pretty much saw every Harrison Ford movie in the theater.
He was coming off of taking over Alec Baldwin's role as Jack Ryan. He was coming off of Patriot Games right before that. He was coming off of Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade in '89. He had done The Mosquito Coast, a couple other things, and then also took over another franchise, which would be Patriot Games that he would.
Always switching roles out. And Baldwin it happened a couple. I mean, I think Baldwin was originally.
Baldwin was up for
supposed to
do this. He was up for this.
Really?
Yeah.
And Harrison Ford got it from him as he did in Hunt for Red October.
I don't think Baldwin could have done the same work. I mean, I don't.
Nah.
It's like one of those. It's a rare film where I can say the lead. I can't picture anyone else playing this role.
Well, let me give you a couple of the what ifs that were like Eric said. Baldwin was one of the top choices. Nick Nolte.
Nah.
And he said no because he thought he was too old, but he was only a year older than Harrison Ford. He's got that rugged kind of thing back then.
But Nick Nolte looks like a drinker. Harrison Ford does.
Yeah, but I would not peg him as a doctor.
Yeah, his hands were shaking from the drinking.
No.
Harrison Ford looked like a
Baldwin,
doctor.
yes. Baldwin, yes, but Baldwin would have played it snarky.
Yeah.
He would have been like
and more raspy voice.
Like too confident.
Him with Tommy Lee would have been a bad mix. It would have been too much snarky.
What about Costner?
Costner?
Too whiny.
He had the everyman thing going on there.
He did, but he's not. He's not vulnerable.
He's not that type of. He's not really that type of action star. In my opinion,
and the everyman wouldn't have worked.
And I love Kevin Costner. I just don't.
Yeah.
Like Harrison Ford being a doctor, you kind of obviously he was very well respected, so like he had to go from the top to the bottom of being accused.
Right.
Whereas Kevin Costner,
I've never seen Kevin Costner as a bottom.
Roland,
wow. I'm done.
13 minutes and 5
I went
seconds.
David Blaine and Costner's a bottom. I'm done.
Eric, I guess I will go back to editing this podcast.
I'm just glad it wasn't me. It was Roland.
We've got one more name, which I think he could have done it.
Who?
Michael Douglas. Think of Michael Douglas
in
the game who got torn down to nothing, and he was on the streets.
I don't think so.
I think Michael Douglas could have done it.
Because his wife is too old in this movie. He needs him at least like 19 in his early career. Maybe. I do think the vulnerability of Harrison Ford, the other actors don't show.
Pulled it off.
They're too ego. Their characters always have this sense of, I know I'm right. I know I can't go below a certain level. Where I felt in this film, the way Harrison Ford played it, that he was beaten at points, that he felt lost, and he felt like all this stuff. And it really came across for me, just to be serious about it.
He plays it well in his face.
Yeah, and there's emotion. There's a lot of energy and emotion in his face.
A lot of physicality to what he does.
And I don't know if those
every muscle of his body, not just throwing a punch or
Well,
falling.
Harrison Ford's a unique actor where with this or Indiana Jones, like he can, much like Roland said, he can have the vulnerability and still do the action and have a little bit of a comedic thing, be very likable without coming across as egotistical or snarky.
Yeah.
Like it's a really like he's a very unique person because he does it in Indiana Jones, he does it in this film,
Yeah.
where and again like Eric said with his facial expressions, like where he uses his whole body, so it would be hard to. I think Douglas, because Dean, I agree with you. If you watch the game, you can see a little bit of that. I don't think he does it as well as Harrison Ford, but he might, out of the group of names you said, he might have been the only one.
Yeah, that's the closest one.
He was
I
kind of
agree
playing
with that.
those roles.
Yeah.
Michael Douglas was playing those roles of guys who were wronged, like Disclosure, Fatal Attraction to a
deservedly
lesser
so.
extent. Even though that character was a flawed character in Fatal Attraction, he was the guy that had a,
It won't be ignored, Dan.
That had someone pursuing him. Like he,
Yeah.
But he always starts out playing he is more or less doing something wrong, right? And he's a scumbag. And but I think Douglas would have played it maybe too intense. He's got and it would have been more.
He's a yeller. He's much more of a yeller.
Yeah, exactly.
You notice too,
it would have been coming out of his mouth rather than the physicality.
And I think
I
think Douglas also layers his stuff with a layer of sexuality that you didn't need in this film. And I think almost all of his roles, he has this like sexuality that he puts in there.
We didn't need Richard Kimball coming on to the landlady.
Right. We didn't need that. Because, I mean, I've seen that movie. I've seen that fan fiction movie.
Funny enough, we were discussing that before the podcast, the Julianne Moore character, and why she's third. It's not. I always assumed she had a great agent.
She's fourth build.
Fourth build. It's not because she had a great agent, because she was actually Julianne fourth build. She was in it more. She had a bigger part that got much bigger part. Like he was supposed to get interested in her.
Horrible.
Right.
Again, we talked.
She still wasn't that big of a. Like if you look at her filmography, she still wasn't that big of a star.
No. But she did. I mean, look, she did have a good agent, but she had a much bigger role. Right. And I'm so glad that they cut out any romantic interest relationship with them.
Yeah,
I like A Few Good.
No time.
Yeah, we talked about this on A Few Good Men when they it's like it ruins.
Yeah, it would have slowed it down.
It's unnecessary.
It would have slowed it down. Absolutely.
So
all right, let's talk about.
But it does speak to maybe some of the flaws, Christy, that you mentioned.
No.
Later on, I guess
there are no flaws.
That.
No, we're not getting to any flaws.
What are these flaws that you speak of?
No flaws.
We'll get there.
Gerard. There were two names before Tommy Lee Jones. I'll just give you the last names because that's all you need. Hackman and Voight.
Hackman would have been cool.
Hackman. Yes.
I could see Hackman.
Yeah, Voight. I don't think so.
Hackman wouldn't have been so like aggressive with it. I think. Like some of Gerard's, like the way he does things, Hackman would have been like kind of more subdued, but I think he would have looked really. I think it would have looked really cool with him.
Yeah. Might have been a little too old, but I could absolutely see the scene where where Harrison Ford's like, "I didn't kill my wife," and he's like, "I don't care."
Yeah.
I can absolutely picture that coming out of Hackman's voice.
Like,
at the right timing, the pace,
picture
and
Hackman
everything.
in that scene
because he kind of does that type of thing in Enemy of the State, like that.
That's why he did Enemy of the State. Same director, isn't it? Or that he did Enemy of the State, I think, because he passed on this. It was in IMDb.
It showed it could have worked.
Yeah,
he was awesome in Enemy.
He could have worked. Hackman could have, but I love Tommy Lee Jones just because he's another unique type of actor where his snarkiness is he's likable even though he's curmudgeon.
But again, keep in mind that in '93 though, Tommy Lee Jones wasn't anything big. Like he almost fluked his way into the Oscar nomination for JFK. But if you look at his filmography before that, he hadn't really done much. He was around. Everybody knew the name Tommy Lee Jones. But I think the Oscar nomination for JFK and then this role kind of that shot him into the stratosphere in the '90s because then all of a sudden Tommy Lee Jones was doing everything.
Everybody talked about him when this film came out.
Yeah,
and then U.S. Marshals came
delivery.
out.
Yeah,
which
went downhill.
Which is odd, Dean, since he didn't have the clout to come into this film. He did a lot of the rewrites. He's not credited for it, but
actually the whole cast did. Harrison Ford
was very
but for Tommy, but Harrison Ford was established. Tommy Lee Jones to not be established and come in and be like, he wouldn't say that. He thought about Renfro dying or staying alive. He had a lot of. He said a lot in this film behind the scenes.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
Yeah,
you said that. Scott Eric.
The script was pretty shoddy.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they would they pretty much said
all they
were kind of making it up as they go.
Yeah, they had the train, I think, mainly.
And from what I understand, that some of the earlier drafts had like weird stuff, like Tommy Lee Jones' character actually hiring the one-armed man to kill Kimball because Kimball fucked up an operation on Gerard's wife.
That sounds
Oh,
awesome.
And like he blamed Kimball, so he really wanted him like
yeah.
dead or alive, like more or less. And it was just like, what? No,
Mostly dead, it sounds like.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a very base framework, and pretty much, I think Jane Lynch, this was one of her early roles.
Yeah,
She was
sure.
Catherine.
Yeah.
She
Yes.
said
Mhm.
the right before we're shooting that scene, Harrison Ford and I are working on the scene and kind of figuring out what we're going to do. So they were literally every day in the morning trying to kind of suss out where the story was going, which is very interesting because this has so much tension to it.
It does.
That's built in that
Yeah.
that would seem like you would need a lot of planning to know where you're going to have those beats of suspension, because you also have the fake beats of suspension when Harrison Ford is hitchhiking. He gets
Yes.
picked up,
Yeah.
and then the next scene is the marshals are like, okay, the girl is at the girlfriend's house, and you think they're going to pick him up, but they're actually going to get
After Copeland.
going to get Copeland. So that is kind of like a tension and a release.
Yeah.
And then the scene when he's in the basement apartment and the cops come and they get the son who's a drug dealer. That's another tension and release. And I don't know how you're not planning for that.
I think what they did, and this is on the rewatch, because I watched it with my sons actually, and so I was watching it, really looking at the beats and looking at the rhythm, and I think because this was such an based on such an iconic show, and that's probably why they fought with that script so much, to keep it true to the rhythm of the show. It's shot in that rhythm, that pacing, that tension. I mean, obviously it's longer, not that much longer, but it's. I think that's probably what helped it a lot. This was so ingrained in them. They studied that show. It was I used to watch it as a kid. I remember it was on reruns on TV, and I watched it all the time, and it felt true to that. So maybe that's what helped them sort of get to those beats and get to those displays of action.
Was the show just chasing one? I will admit, I've never seen it. They were just.
The show was very much like the Incredible Hulk, where
it was he
was on the
TV
land,
show,
but each episode he would meet somebody else. He would help that person
solve a problem and move on.
Solve a problem, and like Mando and like the Hulk, that kind of episodic thing. But boy, from what I understand, like the finale was like one of the best finales ever, because my mom was telling me like they finally, the one-armed man, it was like so many people tuned into that to see how it ended.
But even in this one, he helps the kid in the hospital, and you see that he is helping.
They had to get that in there.
And it worked really well. It worked really well.
It helped fill in the backstory of why, and one of the things that Roland famously says, and I was thinking about it during this episode, is that, this is a small neighborhood film, and that's why it works too. It's not this epic scope of a cross-country chase and different locales, and and trying to overreach the scope. It happens in Chicago. He comes back to Chicago. They know he's in Chicago, so it becomes this really claustrophobic cat and mouse game with actually two protagonists, because you should not be rooting for Gerard.
Yeah.
But he's so likable that you like Gerard and you like him chasing, even though throughout most of the film he still wants to catch him, and he doesn't do that change until
right
3/4 of the way through. But you're still rooting for the quote unquote bad one of the quote unquote.
But with Harrison Ford being the bad guy, can you really root the
he
quote
wasn't
unquote
the bad guy?
guy?
Harrison Ford's the hero because we know that he didn't do it. He's got to prove it. So the other guy is chasing him, but
I guess you're not rooting. You're not hating Gerard.
The guy who's chasing them.
I think it's hard to dislike Gerard and Kimball, because at least my interpretation is Tommy Lee Jones kind of like, as things start happening, he's like, he starts questioning like the behavior of Harrison Ford's character. Like, where's he going in an ambulance? Why would he hang out in a hospital? Like, and you see him thinking like, this isn't normal fugitive behavior. A fugitive leaves. They flee. They don't come back to
Right.
the scene of the crime. They don't come back. They don't hang out in a hospital with this guy. So
And he asks
That's right.
what happened to the boy.
For me, it become I root for him because even I mean I know the outcome. I know that he's going to figure out because he's not just like these Chicago cops saying he killed a cop, he's guilty. He's looking. He has the ability to step outside of this frame and look at the whole picture, and that's why I think we're able to not dislike him. We're rooting for him to figure it out.
Just doing his job.
That's right.
Like when the famous line of "I don't care." His only concern is I'm catching a fugitive. That's it.
Don't want to hear your story.
What happened?
I think it's also
he decidedly becomes a more of a detective.
Yeah.
Than a a bounty hunter with a
Well,
badge.
he's Wyatt Earp.
So
they're shutting it down. Wyatt Earp is here to clean up.
But like Christy said, that's when you start to to really like the guy because he's going out of his comfort zone of investigating all these other side things. He's following in Kimball's footsteps.
He reopens the file and starts reading.
He looks for the one-armed man.
Looks for the one-armed man. He goes into the So
Roland, I have a question for you.
Sure.
How did the Chicago Police Department ever allow this film to get made?
I have no idea. They look like
the Chicago PD looks like the worst bunch.
I'll tell you, you get a couple of deep dish pizzas, and they'll do anything. These guys,
they look like the most close-minded police department. Like they didn't care to investigate.
No, I know. I read.
Financially, you're not going to be hurting.
12-year-old McAllen's getting donated to a.
Like they never did. They never did a turn. Like they were always. You got the shot, you take them out. It's like
Well,
when this was airing, when I was watching my son, I told him, nowadays you could never do this because the police force, wherever it's being shot, would have riots.
Yeah, they would
you
not
can't show cops like this.
I think what they were trying to show, other than Chicago police officers being awful at their jobs, is that brotherhood. And in '93, we look at it. If you look at it from the 2023 scope, it's a little bit different. But from 1993, that blue brotherhood of like, oh, he shot a cop, he's going down. They don't care. And in 1993, that was a reality. That you got away with it. Like Roland said, you couldn't get away with it today. But in 1993, you got away with a lot more shit.
Absolutely, yeah, true. No, absolutely. They were not. That's when filmmakers were actually questioning authority, and they came out of the 70s, started looking at all these movies that sort of questioned the authority or the tactics. And I think also with these two characters, I mean, the big thing with me was that yes, they. He's evolving sort of in the thing, but I think it actually runs a little deeper where they both have a level of integrity that the other characters don't. And that's actually what I think what gets them. Like Kimball's a guy, I save lives. I don't kill wives, which I know that rhymes, but put it on the shirt. That'd be a great doctor shirt. I save lives. I don't kill wives.
Lives, don't kill wives.
Yeah. So, but see, that's how I get my wife. They'll be back in the house. I say that stuff.
One foot in.
Low bar.
Yeah, it's always. I'm a short man.
It's a bar though.
It's really bar. 5'8" is a bar. That's it. We'll have drinks later. But then you have Tommy Lee Jones, and he is saying why he's questioning all these things, and people are force feeding him the information and trying to ram it down his throat. Of like, no, he's guilty, just get it done. Why are you in my jurisdiction? Everybody's complaining to him. And he has a level of integrity saying, no, nothing fits. This doesn't fit.
Roland, how much integrity does Dr. Richard Kimball have? He goes into Mr. Johnson's room, steals his clothes, the wallet's in there, takes his egg sandwich.
I know, but he took the old clothes.
Doesn't even look back.
One thing.
And nothing for
How
nothing.
Do you know? He
the
didn't write a
nurse
note saying thank you.
The nurse, the nurse is having a whole conversation with Mr. Johnson. I think Mr. Johnson's dead.
Yes.
He's filling his water. He's like, you hydrate now. And the guy's like.
There's also a lot of things like that. The one thing I noticed in this movie is I've never seen so many like coincidences. Like he finds a room that has the shaving kit, all this stuff.
No infections, no razor bumps, nothing.
He actually does.
The timing of when he's in the basement apartment and the guy gets arrested, which leads to them knowing that he's in Chicago. Like all or even when they're both in the jail and Tommy Lee Jones is going up the stairs and he's going down the stairs.
Yeah,
and, like there's so many like coincidences.
but that's very
Okay, Gary, I have something. This is what I wrote This is what I wrote.
They're meat cutes.
Yes.
This movie it's fantastic but plausible, meaning they don't stretch it so far
I totally
that they're out on a limb. It's this, all of this stuff is very possible and plausible. You know, maybe the only thing that's not is diving off the spillway, right? Like that's probably the most fantastic stretch. Everything else is not really a stretch, because we talked about other films where in Heat, where Robert De Niro hides in plain sight. He walks into a hotel, steals a security guard outfit because people just aren't paying attention.
Yeah.
Well, they did that in this too.
Yeah, that's
He
what I'm
walked
saying.
into the hospital
You could
and-
pretty much. I think you
He was Desmondo.
that he could hide in plain
I
sight.
think
He
you
looks
can
like a
do.
Desmond, I
This
know.
is like Dean's saying, like this is the kind of movie where you could theoretically explain every.
And
step.
back then, like if we're going back in time,
You know.
security was different. I will give you a story.
Yeah.
Only 2 people are allowed to visit, newborn babies in hospitals when somebody has a baby. So I knew that we are a big family. So I always made sure I said I was the delivery guy for flowers. So I get into the hospital with no pass.
You didn't
Go
pretend to be
wherever
the
you
janitor?
want.
But you had
I go delivering these. I think I would mispronounce the last name, Tuminaj. I butcher the last name, and I said, I don't know. I think it's a maternity.
You
And
had
I
to
go upstairs. That'll be it.
Did you rebuy flowers each time, or use the same ones?
No, I'm a classy guy. I mean, I go to ShopRite. I get the cheap flowers.
He was
Artificial
taking them from
flowers,
other
Yeah,
rooms.
the dead people.
There you go.
A guy was missing a shaving kit. I
Mr.
took it from
Johnson,
him.
yeah.
Mr. Johnson's flowers.
Kids flowers. Yeah, no, I get your point, Jerry, and that's probably that's probably the nitpick that people would have. But again, a lot of it
Doesn't change
was,
anything.
It's not like
It's
it's
still
not like
awesome.
it's
Yeah,
not
you
like
don't
they were
care,
always face to
100%.
face, and they didn't catch him. They were always, Harrison Ford was maybe a step and a half ahead. Yeah. It was never like, oh, they're always face to face and he gets away some way. He's the inept. Yeah. He's the inept marshal. It's just, they're trying to guess his next move for a fugitive that doesn't move like a fugitive. So they're kind of coming on information and doing the research, like with the telephone call, like, oh, that's an elevated train. It's like, how do you know? Mm-hmm. So they're having to kind of detect things, and like I think Eric said, is kind of think outside the box a little bit and kind of really start to. It's not going to be an easy capture because he's elusive, but he's elusive just by not trying to get away.
Yeah, he's not doing what a fugitive would do.
It just speaks to his tenacity and his desperation to prove his innocence. And, when you say that, I totally buy the fact that, he jumps off the spillway because what else is he going to do?
Not that he lives though.
He's not going to get, well,
Peter Pan right here, right off the spillway.
But they acknowledge it. That's the point. Yeah. They acknowledge in the movie that one guy in a million couldn't have made it, but he does.
Yeah, go find me the fish that ate him.
Go catch the fish.
We move on with the story. He just happened to survive. Did he think he was going to? Probably not. But that's the story we're telling here. So and you love it all the more for it because I think it's and I think that's the reason why Tommy Lee like Gerard is like this motherfucker, like he survived this, and every step of the way he's doing something.
Well, that's when he starts respecting him. That's when he's
even more ridiculous, and he's like,
he likes him. He respects him. I forgot which other movie we talked about where the adversaries liked each other. Dean, they only share like 3 scenes together.
Yeah, 2.5.
Yeah, they're not. They're barely in. They're both in the movie a lot, but they're barely in it together.
Yeah, because what you're watching is one
chase.
One character is chasing law, right? Tommy Lee Jones is represents the law, but Harrison Ford represents justice. He wants justice for what happened, but Tommy Lee Jones wants to enforce the law. He only knows that this person escaped. I don't care. He was an inmate and he escaped. I need to capture him.
Dean,
but he starts to understand the search for justice, I think.
You should redo the poster.
That's why he's not leaving anywhere.
Should redo the poster.
Back.
One man chases law, the other man chases justice.
There you go.
Fugitive.
That's on the other side of that T-shirt.
Oh, there you go. And then Roland turns around and his wife lets him back in.
That's it.
Well, you know what we didn't do is we didn't roll through this cast, and I think we need to because a lot of interesting characters in here. Of course, we know that Harrison Ford plays Dr. Richard Kimball. We got Tommy Lee Jones as Sam Gerard, which we talked about. Stella Ward, who was kind of popular back then. I think there was that show Sisters.
Oh, I thought it was 30-something with Sisters.
30-something and Sisters. Yeah. And so she was kind of really a pretty hot commodity. But again, she exists mostly in flashbacks, and she gets brutally mauled. And she got like third billing. Joey Pants as Cosmo Renfro.
He's awesome.
Say his last name, Dean.
Joey Pants.
Joe
Pantaleone.
Pantaleone.
Very, very well known from the Goonies, I'll say.
Got it.
Yes.
And Andreas Katsoulis as Frederick Sykes.
Who's 47 in this film, and that's odd to me since I'm going to be 47.
I handle security for all the top.
Okay, and he was in Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Then you've got Mr. Jerome Crabbe, and that's how you pronounce his name, Jerome Crabbe.
We call him Jerry Krabs.
As Charles Nichols, who I remember from the great Dolph Lundgren version of The Punisher. He was the bad guy in that.
He's a great bad guy.
And in this one, he's so, he's such a, Richard, Richard. And he gives him a couple of, gives him
Pinky in the brain? What is going on here?
He kind of sounds like Ren a little bit.
Yeah.
Because he sounds like Peter Lorre a little bit.
He does. Lorre, yeah.
He does. Vis-a-vis Ren from Ren and Stimpy. So it's spot.
Ren and Stimpy.
It's spot on.
You nailed it.
What about Brad Pitt?
Who was originally he's like the friend, and he's I'll give him money, and I'm protecting him, and when Gerard comes to interview, I wouldn't tell you anyway if I knew where he was, so you think this guy's a pal.
He takes it to the end.
Yeah, which could, if you're looking for a flaw, you might question, why did that character do that? Why would he go so far to help him if he really actually wanted him dead?
He didn't think
wouldn't it have been easier just to drop the dime on him?
Because the only way that Kimball linked it was when he went to go see Jane Lynch, and they looked at that. He probably just didn't think he was going to get to that point, and he was going to blame Lance, and he was going to come in.
To see the date.
And she happens to see the date that it was after. But while you're on Dr. Nichols, how much money did he give him? Because you want to nitpick. He's got a sport jacket, a tweed sport jacket, new jeans, a button down. I'm just saying, how much money and he's paying rent. How much money did Nichols give him?
I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know, a lot.
Gene's on the lam. Oh, there he is.
Yeah. Listen. Dr. Nichols,
that was a part.
He had a crush on. No one talks about the sub story here, but him and Kimball had an affair.
No.
This is the scene that Christy's talking about is the scene where this is after the parade.
Yeah.
And at that point, time has passed. Yeah. I would say a few months have passed at this point.
Yeah.
Because Kimball's no longer in disguise. He's in the wide open. He's sitting in a bar drinking a beer. Yeah. Anybody could have recognized him. He's not even doesn't have the hair dye anymore. Yes, he's wearing a tie.
Yes, it's like where did he get the money?
I think this is where the Julianne Moore part plays, because he's
supposed to be with her. That's right.
At this point, so I think that
now we have plot holes, and you gotta
still not a flaw.
But again, it goes back to what I said about like him just like at this point he just doesn't give a shit anymore. He's so determined that at this point they didn't catch him. They still don't know where he is. I don't know where he is at this point. He's not in that dump of an apartment anymore. So I don't know where he's.
He goes to the men's. He's at the hotel, the men's only hotel.
I think that was
probably.
No, that's where he is.
I think the most plausible money thing is he went back to Mr. Johnson, cut off his air hose until he got his PIN number, his ATM card, and then emptied it out.
But cashing Social Security checks.
We're joking about
redirecting him to the men's hotel.
We're joking about these little nitpicks that we have, and a testament to the film is I don't actually really care. Where he got the money from. I still love the movie. He looks good in the outfit. I'm okay with it. I overlook all the flaws. I just think I love the movie enough to. It's like a child. If you have a kid, they have all these little flaws, but you still love them.
Let me get back to the cast. We stopped at Jerome Crabbe for some reason, and
because we had a lot of
the whole other
Dr. Nichols
coming out of the tennis club. Roland, remember the window washer guys?
Yeah. I do remember that.
They just used to come onto your like hijack your car.
Yeah.
No,
With
I
the
don't want it.
newspaper.
No.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
the newspaper and the
No,
old
thank
bottle
you.
of water.
Thank you. No.
Richard,
See, Richard.
I'm in the middle of
You're
this speech.
getting pretty desperate, Mr. Gerard.
So you should splice together The Fugitive with Casablanca and Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah.
Got it all. Tom Wood as Marshal Noah Newman.
Yeah. He had nice hair back
Noah
then.
was kind of like
Worst
the little
hair
protege. Like,
ever.
Sam was always kind of protecting him.
No, Roland likes that hair.
I like his hair. Long
ponytail?
and curly, and now he's got
Don't let him
nothing.
give you shit about your
Stupid
He's got
ponytail.
nothing.
Ponytail.
By the way, his hearing came back. At one point, he's on the phone
Yeah.
in his right ear, and he's like, "Oh, all right, don't give me any shit about you." All right, and then he loves Gerard
They're in
again.
the laundry.
My pleasure.
After he gets his ear blown out, he gets a ponytail and dresses better. Did anyone notice that?
It is
I
weird
don't-
that happens after he gets his ear blown out.
Like yeah, like all of a sudden he's got style. He went to to Men's Warehouse.
I think he was faking. Well, not faking it, but I don't.
No,
Think
I
it
think
was
he
as
thought
bad
he
as
was overplaying. Yeah, it's going to
He's
go
overplaying.
away.
Is my ear's
You
shot.
know what, Eric?
What's wrong with you?
I don't
He's
bargain.
basically saying like, yeah,
It wasn't Eric. It wasn't point blank. He shot it. He shot him like down the hall.
I got you, man.
That's right.
He
It wasn't like a-
originally
it wasn't
whispered,
I got you,
love you.
man.
He was definitely rattled. He didn't want to admit, hey, I basically
Gerard was
shit my
closer to
pants.
the gun than
Yeah.
Newman was.
So he's just basically telling him like, why did you do that?
Yeah.
Like what's wrong with you? Like kind of thing. That's what he was trying to get across. I think. Bargain.
Can you
So
hear
next
me?
up, we got
Can you hear me?
Daniel Roebuck as Biggs. It's hinky, Sam. If they could dye the river green, why can't they dye it blue the rest of the year?
Roebuck.
Daniel Roebuck.
So it's a
hinky.
valid question.
Big dog.
What about bullshit, Sam? What about bullshit?
What about when he asked the other cop? What's the other cop's name? He's like,
Are
Sam,
you
are you
Irish
Irish? He
too?
goes, no, are you? He's like, no.
Yeah, that's Johnny Lee Davenport as Marshall Henry. He's like, no.
Now, if you've never seen it, it's because he's a black actor, and it's not common, but his reaction is perfect.
He's like,
no.
And then you got L. Scott Caldwell as Marshal Aaron Poole. Care to change your bullshit story? He might have gotten out. He might have gotten, you just told me,
what the hell is this?
And he's
Wyatt Earp's here to clean it
telling
up.
me he's part of the wreckage. Now you're telling me he got
he's
out?
a guy that he's been in stuff.
And then
Lot of stuff.
let's see, we got Ron Dean as Detective Kelly. Ron Dean was not the cop with the glasses and the mustache. Ron Dean,
No, the
was
short
like
guy.
The other,
he always
he's
plays
the
detectives. He
early-
was Wirtz.
the one
He was
that
Wirtz
was going to give
in,
the
in Dark Knight
liquor
Rises.
or whatever, the bottle of scotch
Yeah.
or something.
I'm personally
Yeah.
donating a 12-year bottle.
Yeah.
Of,
McKellen, I think it is.
Catch this scumbag. He always plays cops, Ron Dean.
does.
And then of course, like we said, Jane Lynch in a very early role as Catherine. Yeah, and then Nick Searcy, who's became a really big character actor. He was Sheriff Rollins. He was the guy in the beginning. Sheriff Rogers.
Yeah.
Rollins.
Did you say Julianne Moore? Did you cover her?
We said her in the beginning, but you know what? She's gotten enough credit. She got fourth credit in the film. We don't need to keep going back to her because her agent got paid.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, and Julianne Moore in a very small role
So
as Dr. Ann East.
So there was a couple. Celia Ward, and it would not have worked. Didn't want her character to get killed off because if there was going to be a Fugitive Part 2 or she wanted to be able to be in it and maximize it. And
it could have been like Kenobi in Empire.
yeah, I mean, you could do flashbacks all day long.
Richard,
but
you have to look at things.
And then Pantaleone, his character,
Pantaleone,
Pantaleona.
Joey
yeah,
Pants.
you talked to me, huh?
Joey. Well, I just want to know if you could say it. I didn't say I could say it.
Right.
Joey Pants. Was I think he was supposed to like Tommy Lee Jones wanted him to get killed because he thought the character would die, like he should die, and he lost that battle. That's why he got to be in U.S. Marshals.
Let's be honest. Taking a steel girder in the face
Probably
should have killed
you.
you.
You shouldn't be awake at the end being like, I'm taking a vacation.
Much like Eric was saying that there's unshown story of Harrison Ford where he was living. I think that shot was meant to kill him. Because he took it right to the skull, and when they're wheeling him out, it's like a voiceover. Tell Sam Gerard I'm going to, and nothing on his face, and he took a girder to the skull.
Yeah, that's right.
His
It
face
was
he
a
should
Chicago
look like Arnold in
girder.
Terminator.
Yeah,
he got
Arnold
stuff
in
steel.
Terminator, he was getting a girder in the face, and his skin peeled off.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This guy's got nothing. He's got not even have a bruise.
You
not
can't
even
hurt
a-
Joey
a-
Pants.
a-
You
a
can't take Joey Pants
laceration.
down. You can't take Joey Pants down.
You can't
Joey
take Joey's
Pants,
pants
that's- you know
down.
what?
He was already in the
Wait,
Matrix.
I
at
was
that
gonna
point.
say,
Roland, can you
You
explain?
beat me to it. You beat
You
me
can't
to it.
take Joey Pants down. That's all
Take
I'm
his
saying.
pants down.
Joey's
Okay.
pants down. You can't take
Oh,
him down.
boy.
Get your mind
Oh,
out of the
boy.
gutter, Christy.
Oh, sorry.
Jeez
It's
Louise.
just, I've been there. I've been in the gutter for a while. I apologize.
Jerry, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Remake this film nowadays with CG and swinging across a canyon to get away from people. Would this film work
No.
as one of these big CGI extravaganzas?
No, because one of the things that, like, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Harrison Ford doesn't look like an action hero, and him dealing with all the actual stuff that he's got to, it just adds a little more realism to it. If there was more explosions and chases and stuff, like, he's not going to be a guy that can drive a car. Like, he's going to drive the ambulance how he drove the ambulance, just whipping around people. Even the way when he picks up the gun in the when they're in the dam, like, he doesn't hold the gun like an action hero. He holds it like a doctor that's trying to figure out who killed his wife.
Mm-hmm.
And if you changed it to like a big action, if you focused more on the action, it wouldn't have been. And the fight at the end, he didn't fight like an action hero. He fought like a doctor that's at the end that figured it out and wants to beat the crap out of him.
Charles Nichols got the drop on him.
So
you never gave up, Richard.
I don't think. I
gave
think
up.
it would not be. Part of what I liked about it was that it looked very.
My friend Richard
Down.
is not well.
He's not well. Let me go take him out back and kick the shit out of him. Right?
To Jerry's point, I think that's what's. And no, I don't think I would agree with Jerry. It can't be remade. Why it's so likable, and Harrison Ford, particularly in all of his movies, even Indiana Jones, is he's your everyman. And maybe we talked about this in Indiana Jones. He's your everyman, like action star. Like you can, any one of you, don't take offense, could look and be like, oh, I could probably, like, because Harrison Ford's not doing anything so spectacular.
I always thought I could be a fugitive.
Like spectacular in his mannerisms or his motions. Like Jerry said, he picks up the gun. He doesn't pick it up like I've held a gun before and I know what I'm doing. Like he picks it up like a doctor. He gives hope to people who might want to, go into a dam and pick up a gun and maybe become a fugitive. Like I could do it. If Harrison Ford could do it, I could do it.
I think Roland, what it also set up is also like the next phase of his career in the 90s because he parlayed that into the Jack Ryan as just an analyst and Air Force One.
That nervousness, but
he
steady
was
on
the
his
president.
feet. Right?
Get
Yeah.
off my plane.
Yeah. He had those moments where
kind of parlayed that.
Definitely. He pushed that into where even his volume and delivery changed. Like during this decade, where he got into those moments of rage, that very controlled
find
rage.
that man.
Yeah, and he always does it, sort of. I didn't kill my wife, and stuff like that, and where he brings up his voice. And it defined him as an actor during that decade. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
He's so committed to the physicality, though. Is like even the simplest thing of like just by pointing a finger and making that face like
that was just him getting old. Though.
You find that man, like that. It's just that facial tics that he has, and it's so. It may be. Some people might argue that maybe he's going a little too much.
I don't think so.
It,
no, I don't think so.
A punch or
actually,
I love
before that, Eric is pretty well acted, and I noticed again. I picked up something when he's being interrogated by the two cops, and like your wife was worth quite a bit, right? And and you're not going to be hurting financially, and he starts to say, do you you think I killed my wife and I struck her, whatever. And if you notice, he's only ever gesticulating with one arm. Everything is with his left hand. His right arm, which he says was the one-armed man, does not move in the chair. Everything he's doing is with this one hand, which is odd for Harrison Ford. it was just a very nuanced thing that I picked up on, where everything was just this one hand that he was working with when they were talking about a one-armed man that killed his wife. He wasn't going like this and flying off. He was doing everything with one hand, even when like he took everything. It was a very nuanced performance for him. I thought, because he could have been that finger pointing guy throughout, and that kind of curmudgeon Harrison Ford that we see.
I didn't. That's really interesting. I didn't pick up on that. Did you know in that scene he wasn't given ahead of time the questions they were going to ask? So because they wanted his reaction to be more genuine. So, and that's where I think, Eric, I agree with you. Like, I think like those little manner, like, I don't think he's overacting at all. Like, I think, like, how else are you supposed to act when
you're in the moment?
Your wife just got brutally murdered. They're interrogating you, and now like your head's spinning. I thought it was a great.
And the way the cop with the glasses was asking the questions at the end.
Yeah, like ramping questions.
Did he have, what color were his eyes? What color? I'd be like, screw off. Someone just killed my wife.
Boxers or briefs? What color were his shoes?
Yeah.
It was so routine, the questioning by that point. Harrison Ford actually said one of the reasons he wanted to do this film is because he wanted to grow a beard and a mustache for a role.
There you go.
Because Warner Brothers, every time we worked with Warner Brothers, they're like, people need to see your face. They need to see who like we want Harrison Ford's face. One of the reasons he did this is he got to grow a beard for the role, although it didn't. But he looked kind of good. Like that kind of was a different.
I thought he looked great.
Every time we see Harrison Ford, we're used to the Han Solo, Indiana Jones visage, of Harrison Ford. So putting the beard on him also gave another dimension to the character as this doctor. And
it also, for the purposes of the film, they didn't have to do a mask or a disguise. He just had to shave the beard and then dye his hair. So it was also also for that, because, like you said, Dean, like when they were like, we hire Harrison Ford for the face. Well, you'll get the face, but you're first going to get. But I thought he looked amazing with a beard. He grows a good beard.
Get a room.
And actually,
it's a full beard.
If you notice when he's being interrogated, he's kind of like fiddling with his beard. And there's a couple of times during the film when he instinctively goes to do that, but he has no facial hair.
Oh, wow.
If you notice, he carried that tick over that. He was doing that when he was getting interrogated. He was kind of like roughly, like kind of the front part. And there's a couple of scenes when gets kind of nervous. He kind of goes to it. But there's no facial hair there. So again,
everything is so well, like you would look at it and say this is like nothing, but everything is so well planned. Like you pointed out, planned and choreographed every little
Scotch tape and baling wire, basically. Except for the train scene was planned out. That was like I said in the beginning, $1 million
and one take.
And they used real trains.
You can go visit it. It's still there.
Yeah,
really.
There's some wreckage still there.
It's a tourist site.
That's what I'm saying. Like that back then, it had to be done either practically or with miniatures.
Yeah.
Nowadays, if you remade this, they would have a spectacular train. It would be 50 cars long, and you don't need that. Like you just need the tension of what's happening, not the scope of what's happening. Right? You just needed to know that there's a train coming, and I'm trying to get this guy out of it. And.
It's a great sequence. That train scene is amazing.
And that part where he's standing in the window of the bus,
where he jumps out.
That is real. I mean, he actually did that stunt. I mean, he did a lot of the stunts himself, but he just jumped. I mean, that thing, smacks into that. He really did that jump. I don't know.
He really got hurt, which is why he's limping throughout all of it.
The run is
I don't know when he's like running in front of the train. I think that's a plate, obviously.
There was some green screen. But Dean, to your point, I think it takes away from the film when they use all these special effects now. Like the thing about The Fugitive with that train scene is, if it were CGI or so grandiose, it kind of at times just it's too much. It's nicer when it's
distracting.
Yeah, it's
and actually, if they did it nowadays, Roland, they could dye the river with CG.
Yeah, they could. Just make a new color and it'd be rainbow. It doesn't matter. I mean, I think that falls in line where even the practicality of the stunts and like you pointed out that they're all in Chicago. It's almost like a maze where everything's so tight and everything's in one space. And even the effects now are really tight. They're in one space. It's very controlled. It's one little world where all this is happening. It doesn't matter what happens in the rest of the world. This is this world where it's happening. So it plays so true to the storytelling. And I think that's and even I think one thing about Harrison Ford is we're talking about him in his style. I think the same thing with Tommy Lee Jones, but to a greater extent, Harrison Ford. He's a good-looking man, but he doesn't mind not looking good-looking. So he'll do stuff.
He's not vain.
He's not a vain person. Where I think the other actors that might have taken that role, vanity plays a part in it sometimes.
Ford will tell you. He'll be the first one to tell you, like, hit me.
Yeah, he's the first one. Let's just do it.
He's fighting with somebody. He's like, hit me in the nose. I don't care. Hit me. I want to. That's real blood. Whatever he gets, he's committed.
Yeah,
man.
so
I mean, that's
you got to. I respect it at least. Not, I don't want to say you got to respect that, but I respect that as an actor and storyteller.
He had the harder role too because he didn't say much because he didn't have a lot of interactions with people, whereas Tommy Lee Jones was
so it's quick,
interviewing the cops, interviewing Dr. Nichols. He had his team, and there's all this banter going back and forth. So Tommy Lee Jones had a lot more to chew on.
He gets to play with humor too,
right?
Which is important. Key.
Yeah,
he
gets to relieve
those humor shots.
And he never does.
Newman, what are you doing? I'm thinking. Why don't you think me up one of those donuts with the sprinkles on it? A cup of coffee. Why are you thinking?
I want to come back like you. You mean good looking and happy or whatever he says?
Happy and handsome.
Yeah.
There are some good lines in it, though. There are some really funny lines.
This is.
Well, there's an ensemble going. So
yeah, it is. It is. It works really, really well.
Yeah, it's good. It's good chemistry.
Very, very much.
Yeah,
so.
great
Very
chemistry.
So.
It was great chemistry just because, and the way Gerard was directing people, like, Biggs, Newman, get on this, and Cosmo, come with me. And you really felt like these guys had worked together as a unit, especially as soon as they, what the funny thing is, I was laughing, is when they first get to the train scene, there's 5 of them in one fucking car. Nowadays, it'd be like, everyone have their own SUV. Yeah. These guys are piled into like one sedan.
They come off like a team, and Gerard is the leader.
Yeah.
And they're all comfortable with him being the leader. Like they are fine with it. And you have the Joey Pants is like, I guess, second, and he knows it, but he knows he can do things. And then you have was it Newman, the guy with the hair? He knew he was the newbie. He knew he was,
he kind of like protected him.
Yeah.
So, but you didn't get a sense of any hierarchy after Gerard. But I mean,
Cosmo was definitely.
Yeah, but they don't flood. They don't.
Cosmo's
is the big dog.
Big line.
Big dog.
Yeah.
Cosmo's big line was pretty much throughout the whole movie. Yes, Sam.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sam.
Yeah. Like, say hi to your mom for me.
But that's why he wants to come back.
Why are you yelling at me? Yeah. What is that? Yell at him. There you go. There, boy.
Yes, Cosmo. He's dirty. Yes, Sam.
Yes, Sam. He is.
All he did was he was like confirmation bias for Gerard. Like he would just always confirm things for him. Yes, Sam.
Leave Joey Pants alone.
No, he's great, but it was just like again, each one of these characters kind of filled in a slot that made it like this ragtag crew. But working as a unit, they were like, he's on the east thing, he's on the west side. Like they all were. Once it was go time, they all like.
It goes back to like TV and film, say in the 40s or 50s, where you had that Brooklyn unit, where you had the army unit with everybody. They always had a guy from Brooklyn, who was like, "Hey, I smoke cigars. How you doing?" And you had the kid from Arkansas, but they worked together as a team. And I think that's again, like I mentioned before, they took that TV sort of environment and they really held true to it, and they built an ensemble like that, where everybody had a very distinct character, not doing too much sometimes. But they moved the story along. They worked. It was very cohesive. And if, like you said, Dean, they look like they always worked. They've always been working together. They know. They know how they like things, and that's it. And they can even call out the boss. And it's a better CSI than CSI. It was CSI Chicago, and it's just it's a better one.
It really was. And it's what? And when a movie fires on all cylinders like this, it's fun to watch. Yeah. Like you said, you'll forgive some of the stretches, like I said, even some of the stretches aren't that stretchy. But if you really wanted to go there, you're going to forgive it because, the movie's got that heart, and it's not trying to pull one over. They're not trying to pull one over on you. You get to unravel the great thing about this is the only thing you don't know is that Harrison Ford didn't do it, but everything else you get to discover with him. You get to discover about the one-armed man, then about the drug, and then about Charles Nichols and Lentz and. All this
very detailed.
At the end, everything just kind of unravels.
It forces the audience to actually do
pay
some
attention.
work. You can pay attention. You miss something, you could be totally lost. because of the way they set things up, like you mentioned before about the sort of red herring scene where he's, you think that he's going after Kimball, but it's actually the other guy. So you really got to like really.
It's a single
keep your attention
sitting
there.
movie. You watch it in one sit down.
Because you almost
it's
got such a great resolution.
You forget that they talked about the drug. Like you think it's just a fugitive thing, and then you forget there's a whole other underlying story of why
they
he's
introduced
a
the first scene. They actually they do the first scene.
McGregor could bring you Provasic.
Yeah.
Did you say Ewan McGregor?
Evelyn, not you.
Which
then it would be hello there.
Which I believe are names of the producers.
Devlin McGregor.
Yeah, there's a Devlin and McGregor, I think.
What I was going to say is, and it also's got a great resolution, right? After like Kimball hits Charles Nichols with the pipe, and Harrison Ford says, "I didn't kill my wife," and then Tommy Lee Jones says, "I know it."
Yeah.
Because I know it. He didn't say I know. He goes, I know it. Yeah. That whole like you get a really nice call back to it. You don't even realize almost, but what it does is it brings Tommy Lee, it brings Gerard full circle.
Yeah.
That there's more to than just black and white. Someone's a fugitive. They must be a bad person. They have to be captured, which is true.
Yeah.
But then sometimes sometimes you have to color outside the lines or be open to other possibilities,
Well, even like a couple scenes before that, before they get to the hotel, and Gerard's like, "What did he do? Shoot a cop?"
Yeah.
And he's like, he looks disappointed in that. He's not like, "Oh, yeah, we got to get this bastard." No, he's like because he's figured it out. He knows. So you see that change, and even then, it's like you don't.
He was like sympathetic to him, like, "Oh,
right,
man.
exactly. Oh, don't tell me he messed up." So. Yeah, that's
it's like
great.
Newman. Dr. Nichols lied to me.
Go get him.
It's like, go get him.
I love that. He's like in the shit, but then like when he he needs something, it's like go get it.
Go get him.
And he sits back in his chair and he's
he lied to me. He lied to me. Go get him.
Sitting there reading how much Devlin McGregor's bringing in a year. This company's a monster. $7 billion.
Company's a monster.
$7 billion. Company's a monster.
I like one of my. This is just a small thing. Is the very first time when Gerard and Cosmo go to confront Dr. Nichols, like when he's at a convention or wherever, and some guy walks up to Nichols like, "Hey, how are you?"
Yeah.
I do love that.
Just shows him the bit.
And then they come up and put the picture in his face, like, "Oh, would you please excuse me? I've never seen that man before." This guy right here.
Brentford's like, enjoy the rest of the convention.
And then Gerard pulls a Columbo. It's like, "Oh, Dr. Nichols, one more question.
One more time. Just one more thing.
Question.
Yeah.
Do you ever see this guy on the right?
Yes, never seen this guy.
Well played. It's so well played.
Even the way he hits the picture. Something about his mannerisms and stuff.
No, I've never seen that man before in my life.
And then he just smiles. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the convention.
And Bones, when they go to see the Bones.
Yes.
It's like, like, what did he say?
I haven't seen Dr.
That's not what I asked you.
That's not what I asked, sir. It's like, oh.
He got his hearing back, and then he became a little sassy.
That was
right?
Like,
yeah, he's got that sass.
Bones live in that dungeon because for him to be like, "Hey, whatever happened with your wife? Have you not seen the newspapers or anything that I'm a fugitive?"
I know. That was like, how'd that thing work out for you?
How'd that thing with your wife work out?
Well, Harrison Ford his reaction is almost like,
well, Bones.
It's not over.
Her skull is still crushed in, but I'm all right.
Not over yet. Still going.
Not over.
And
so we at that point
now you're an accessory.
Yeah.
I'll see you in jail, partner. Yeah.
So
a lot of
favorite scenes.
Favorite scenes?
Yeah.
Oh.
Jerry, what do you got?
Oh boy.
For some odd reason, one of my favorite scenes is when he diagnoses the kid, when he has the kid in the elevator.
Joel?
And
read the film.
He's like, like he's acting like a dot because he's he's running for his life. He's got everything going down, but he can't let this kid go. And just the way he's still like saving the kid. And then he goes back to Fugitive when he's like, yeah, doctor, they sent me down here with this kid.
Yeah.
There's like, you see a lot of where he really can't, he's a doctor and he's got to save people. And it's just, I don't know why. I just, the way he looks at the way he rewrites everything is like, what are you, a football player? Like for some reason that whole scene just said a ton to me.
Yeah, because that's the way a doctor talks to a kid. Like they're
exactly,
the subtlety, again, what Eric was talking about at the end of that scene, that he has that smirk because he felt like a doctor again.
Yeah,
and you're like, you're looking at me like he's a good man. Like you just and that just in that smirk, you get that.
Yeah. All right, Christy, over to you.
Well, I have like a few, so I'm hoping somebody else will. Okay.
No, over to you. We can wait.
Can I give all of them, or I have to pick one?
One. Maybe later, if you're good.
What is your third favorite?
Yeah, what's your third favorite scene?
So I guess I'll go with the interrogation scene.
Good day.
I really like the interrogation scene.
In the beginning.
Yeah, I think Harrison Ford does a very good job in that scene, and I think it sets up the what, like, the journey he's going to have to go on. Because again, I know it's an action film, but if you put yourself in the shoes of Dr. Richard Kimball, he literally just found this man, brutally murdered his wife, fought with a man. The man got away. Now he's in a police station. Like, this guy's having a shitty night. You know, and he just
And
wanted
the guy
to have
had
some
one
wine with
arm.
his wife.
Like
There was
that had
petals,
to throw you.
there was rose petals on the floor.
He had
You know,
one
But you know what did him in is that recording that she made. She's like,
Yes.
yeah, why? Like, nothing for
Like,
nothing.
what was she
Jill.
doing there?
Richard.
Was she calling him? Like,
yeah, she was saying, Richard, he's trying to kill me, but they read it as Richard is trying to kill me.
That's such a bad read.
She's
It
calling
doesn't-
him,
call
like, Richard,
911.
he's trying to kill me.
By the way,
Richard.
how good are his lawyers?
Not good.
Yeah.
Not that great.
Good at all.
Not that great. But
Nicholas hired them for him.
I have the best
Richard,
lawyer.
lawyer's money
can't find the guy. You can't find the guy.
Richard, I have lawyers at the tennis club.
yeah, like the lawyer, we get like two scenes of the lawyer.
The lawyer turned out to be the squeegee guy that Nichols.
That's Mr.
That's
Jones.
him after the
That's where it
bomb.
all comes around.
No, thank you, no. Roland, what do you
I'll
got?
tell you, there's a lot of great scenes in there. I love it all, but I love when they both meet in the spillway when he says, "I don't care."
That was one of my other ones. Thank you.
I just love that moment because they first see each other. It's so real and so honest. And there's a panic moment from Harrison Ford. There's almost like I gotta bring you in from Tommy Lee Jones, and they just have that little bit of dialogue, and from then it's not going to be a simple run and catch sort of scenario, and it just lays it out for me. So that was always the scene that always stuck the most to me. It's coming out through a whole new tube. So it's almost like a baptism by, he's being born again, right out of right coming right out, canal.
The one, I think the set, like he kind of in that scene, he kind of has his hands up and he turns and he like bends down to jump, and then he jumps and does a dive. But then the next scene is like a body,
just throwing,
the body is just like
again.
full, and then all of a sudden it's against the wall.
Mr.
Like
Jones never got enough credit. That's why he was in the hospital.
Wow, you got some rash there. Eric, what do you got?
Well, one scene we haven't really talked about, which is a masterclass of just great I mean, just the way it was set up was the parade. And that was real.
Yeah.
That was a real parade. There was no extras. Everybody was in that scene. They took a couple of handhelds and they actually contacted the people that put the parade together, and they said, we'd like to shoot a couple of scenes. He goes, as long as you don't disrupt the parade, we're fine with it. So Harrison Ford, that whole bit with him putting the hat on and taking off his coat
What's he
was
do
all
with the
done.
coat, though?
Yeah,
It was all done on the fly. Yeah.
he
And
litters.
it's just like, where's Waldo kind of thing. Like, he kind of just slips out of sight, and you you're looking for him, and then
Yeah.
Tommy Lee Jones is like right behind him, but you don't notice him right away.
Yeah, until he
so
walks
well
by.
done.
Yeah, it is well done.
It's well
done.
You know what? Even more amazing, a second film was shot called Blink the same day in the same parade. So 2 films
Oh, wow.
Really?
Was that
shot
Really? Okay.
simultaneously during that parade.
was that
oddly
Madeline
enough.
Stowe?
No, not that Blink.
Okay.
I'll go Eric one better. The scene before with the staircase.
Oh yeah,
It's just a great like that. I like that cat and mouse because Tommy Lee Jones catches a glimpse of Kimball and he looks back, and he kind of and when they get to the lower corridor, and Harrison Ford is just so cool. Officer, there's
That
a man
is
back there
great,
with a
yes.
trench coat and start waving a gun and
woman.
shouting, and Tommy Lee Jones comes barreling around like ranting and raving, and and it just like it's those small things. Like he didn't set up garbage cans from the trip over. He didn't set up the Home Alone traps. It was just like just using like the police around him saying, there's a guy, it's guy ranting and raving, he's waving
thinking
a
on your
gun.
feet, man. That is,
ranting
he's
and raving.
smart.
I never would have thought of that.
And when he runs through the gate and it closes and he's firing at the bulletproof glass. It's just that was a great.
And Harrison Ford's
another
reaction.
great tense scene.
Harrison Ford's reaction when he's getting shot at.
Yeah,
He's like, "Oh God, this isn't hitting me!" Like his facial expressions are great.
It's the same reaction as Indy when
exactly. You see Indiana Jones. I was just going to say that, and he much like Indiana Jones, like his arm gets stuck in the elevator. Like when at the last scene when Nichols, his foot gets stuck. Like it's very Indiana Jones ish. A lot of these little things, but it's a great scene.
Yeah,
Christy, do you have another one?
I just. I don't think it should go. The scene when he breaks into Sykes' house and calls. So when they're like, "Gerard, we got a Richard Kimball." He's like, "I've got another Richard Kimball," and he gets on the phone and he's like, "Do you remember what I said to you?" And then he's so you have that going on there with them. Then you have him.
You got a car there right now.
You have Harrison Ford. What he's doing in that scene, and then even the extension of when Sykes comes home and they're all there, and he's like, "Does he have any reason to be here?" He's like, "Well, yeah, I got one arm. Of course, I must have killed his wife." But
people verified.
So it's a long scene, and a lot happens, but that whole segment.
He's got like all those clothes like hanging up, hanging from the
he's going through checks. They're all like $912. Like, dude, you can't live in a better apartment and get a closet.
It looked like a dry cleaner.
Yeah,
they were like all the shirts.
He's like, I hope nothing's missing. I hope a lot's missing.
Wait! I marked him. I got him.
Move to the door, Doc. He's so great.
He died.
How did in that scene in the train? Why doesn't the cop be like, "I saw Richard Kimball, but now there's another guy standing right"?
Yeah,
now.
that's one of my holes.
When the cop gets shot, there's other people in the train.
Yeah, but they flee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, they're ducked down. Someone else had to see that Kimball didn't shoot him.
Yeah, the guy that ratted out Kimball.
Maybe he thought that this guy was trying to subdue him. Yeah. He didn't know the nature of what was going on.
And still, being a doctor, checks for a pulse.
Yeah.
15
before he takes
Well, but that's the thing. It's like it speaks to the how crappy these guys are. Yeah. They just assumed that it was Kimball. Yeah. Right?
Well,
in that scuffle, they just Kimball. Yeah, he killed the cop. So now we're he's guilty. So that's just one more thing. That,
Eric, be careful what you say about the Chicago PD.
They're listening to this.
I guess I'm not going to Chicago.
Chicago.
Yeah.
Dennis the Young will protect us when we go to Chicago. So, I think that's going to do it for The Fugitive. If you haven't seen this film,
shame on you.
Yeah.
Wake up.
Yeah, seriously, what's wrong with you?
Wake up.
Go.
I handle security for all the top executives.
And I live in a shitbox.
15 people verified.
No, I told you I don't know him.
I know him.
And Mr. Rooney will vouch for me.
He's so good. Sykes is such a good character. He's so. He had like this weird like mop head and mop of hair.
Like Greg Brady grew up and lost an arm.
lost an arm. Didn't mean he need to lose it. He didn't need to lose his barber.
Yeah, he lost the barber.
Well,
He
could
lost
only
it. He
comb
lost-
one
It
half
was
of
a
his
dialing.
head.
It was a dialing hand.
He lost
Dial
it on the
barber.
line of duty.
Most of the line of duties, tomatoes dropped a little bit further, voice got deeper. It's all.
So much to chew on in this film. So hopefully you'll see it. It is available to stream and to rent and on different platforms. So choose whichever one you want.
Well, it's magnanimous of you.
Yeah, thank you. Big word. Jerry,
Yes.
thank you for joining us.
My
Much
pleasure.
appreciated. Always Roland,
Always a pleasure,
host of the
sir.
Ready Speaker podcast. Go check him out on YouTube. He's got some great content there as well. Christy, thank you. And thank you for the bonus extra scene.
Oh, you're very welcome.
That you love. I told you I don't know him.
Thank you for your Ferris Bueller impersonation of Sykes. Alan Ruck would be very happy.
There you sounded like the Cowardly Lion. I don't know
Pardon my
him.
French, but you're an asshole. That's Alan Ruck. Pardon my French, but you're an asshole. I want my daughter outside.
I like how
in front of the
he raises in
15
his
minutes.
seat when he does it, by the way.
Why'd you kick me? Where's your brains? Why'd you kick me? Where's your brains?
So Ferris Bueller's not
Eric
coming
doesn't
up.
want to do Ferris Bueller.
Why?
It's not his favorite used film. Right?
Who, me? Oh, I can't stand that movie.
Really? Wow.
I despise Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Despises it.
Oh, so you
I-
did not like a lot of references to Ferris Bueller's Day Off in this movie.
Oh, I don't care about that. I just hate
Have
it.
you always hated it?
Wow.
Like from the get-go?
Yeah.
From the
I mean, it's designed.
Oh,
you're
here we go.
designed to hate Matthew Broderick.
You
I just.
so
can't
now
fucking
there's two
stand it.
reasons you can't go to Chicago.
Yeah. Abe
I
Froman,
just- oh my god.
Chicago
You might
Sausage
run into
King.
Abe Froman, the Sausage King.
Yeah.
So
I just yeah.
we'll let Eric,
that's for
we'll
another
let Eric
time.
Cool down. We'll let Eric cool down until our next episode, which won't be Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So we won't have to worry about that. Blood pressures will be normalized by both of us. But thank you guys for joining us as always. New episodes drop every Thursday. Thank you to the round robin of guests as well, and of course, for Eric, this has been Dean asking you to please be kind. Go ahead and rewind.